Self-expression, like always. It's the Cancer full moon. It's the last full moon of this year. And I'm feeling every inch of it. I should be meditating, I suppose. Should be, or showering, or something. I've been trying to ground and come back to the place of feeling secure, because there's just this massive wave of insecurity, and that's just what it is. It's just a big, all of this old motion, old identity, I know, stuff that I didn't let myself feel way back when. A lot of it having to do with not feeling safe. And of course, there's the recognition, there's such intense awareness now that, first of all, it's no one's place, it's no one's job or position or purpose to make me feel. No one can make me feel anything. So my feeling safe is my responsibility. That's up to me to recognize that it happened. There have been times in the past where I did not have the knowledge of my perpetual well-being and stability and felt tremendously unsafe and didn't allow the processing of that emotion because protective mechanisms took over. And a lot of those protective mechanisms, of course, it's all ego, because that's what ego is. It is the protective aspect. A lot of that is what pushed me into dissociation, further from the feelings, or other types of closing, guarding of the heart. A lot of shame experience, just the realization of how much of my life has been lived feeling shame, rejecting my own being, rejecting myself, of course, because again, it's never about someone outside of us. It's always an inside job, an inside experience. It doesn't matter if we feel rejected by someone else if we're accepting ourselves. And it doesn't matter if someone else is accepting us if we're rejecting ourselves. This is where it all lies. But realizing how much time has been spent, how much practice I have on this other track of feeling wrong, of feeling that my being is wrong in some way, in many ways. I've always felt deeply, which is why the dissociation started so early, because I felt so much and didn't know how to process it, and it was immediately met with just essentially nothing, of just there was quickly an understanding that the people around me didn't feel the way that I felt. They didn't feel as intensely, as deeply, as quickly. They just didn't. And so I came to understand that my feeling the way that I feel was incorrect, was inappropriate, was too much, was dangerous, whatever word there could be to shame it, that the things that I wanted and the things that I felt were not allowed. That they weren't safe. They weren't safe to feel. And so here I am feeling all of this. And then there's the perception that this isn't safe. It's not safe to feel this. And so what do? We have to shut it down somehow. And either I shut it down or I detach completely. And I leave my body, but it never goes anywhere. All of that feeling is still there. It doesn't change just because it's been suppressed or rejected. It's still there. So there's all of this feeling that at various points in my life I tried to escape from. And I tried to escape through the dissociation. I tried to escape a lot into thinking. It pushed me either out of my body or into my mind, because the mind was trying to find a way around it. It was trying to figure it out. And of course the mind can't feel, it can only think. It doesn't understand feeling. It'll just go around in circles. And that's all that it ever did. It just went in circles. And it tried to make up these coping mechanisms. It's such a powerful thing. I mean, belief is so powerful, and the way that we think is so powerful, because it does determine our perception and therefore what we are creating in reality. But it was disconnected thinking. It was just this mad scrambling. And that's where the obsessive compulsive component came in. Trying to think your way out of a feeling, there's no way to do that, so it's just more thinking. Just keep saying, well, we'll figure it out. We'll find a way out. There's no way out. The way out is into the emotion, is to give into it, is to just fucking feel it. And there's nothing wrong with that. My God, there's nothing wrong with that. There's everything right with that. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with any of us. That is such a poisonous perception. There's just a lot of hurt. It just feels like years of hurt. Me hurting myself, really. Telling myself, internalizing that voice that said, you just don't belong. You just don't fit here. Anywhere. And that was why I wanted so much not to be here. And then eventually that turned into just I'll just live in the woods, you know, I'll just be a hermit. I will just move to a monastery, or maybe even just by myself, really. Just live alone in the wilderness, because that was the only place that I ever really felt right and at home and accepted. But I know I'm not alone in feeling this way, and I know I'm not alone in feeling as much as I do, and in wanting the way that I do. It's just been so fucking suppressed in everybody. It's just been shut down. The masculine aspect has taken over and dominated everything. And that means thinking and doing all of the time. And the being and the feeling are just, they're just pushed to the side. They're looked down upon. And then I started looking down upon that within myself. Rejecting myself again. It's nobody's fault that these thoughts and these cycles have been in motion for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And the only answer is for me to do the work of accepting myself. Again, that's not something anybody else can do for me. That isn't anyone else's job. It's not their place. It's mine. It's entirely mine. To just continuously notice these thoughts, recognize that they've got momentum. They've been there a while. They've been there a while. But just because they've been there and in motion doesn't mean they have to keep driving anything. I don't have to let them affect me. I don't have to get rid of them. I can just step back from them and see them and even feel the feelings that they're evoking in my body, but instead of running from it, just sitting in it. And being the one to hold myself through it. And it's so scary and confusing to let someone else in on that process. I mean, someone close. Because it's one thing to share this, to let others into the process from a distance. A safe distance, a comfortable distance, right? But for someone that matters, to witness it, it's terrifying to trust someone to accept you when the experience has been, and therefore the expectation, because there's a thought here, there's a pattern here, and I'm sure there's an identity formed around it, that other people don't accept me. That's the thought, that's the foundation, and their ego is holding that ground because it has a sense of self there, of being the unaccepted, being the unacceptable. It takes a weird sense of pleasure and pride in that. It absolutely does. In being this thing, this being that's rejected, that other people just can't understand and can't accept. And it goes, yeah, I'm just too much, I'm just too fucking strange, and I feel too deeply, and I want too big, and just nobody gets it, and that's me. That becomes an identity. And so even being accepted is like a challenge of that. It's a challenge of this identity, and ego resists it. It resists the acceptance. Because now it's losing that ground. Oh my God, who am I if I am accepted? Who am I if the whole of my being is allowed and appreciated and not too much? And that's unfamiliar territory. So it's scary. It's wobbly. It's weird. Can we let go of the identity of unaccepted and unacceptable? Absolutely, we can. There's so much more of myself to discover. Because I am not who I think I am. Because I am not ashamed of my being. And I'm not some frail, frightened, fragile little flower. I'm strong and vibrant and tender, delicate, absolutely. But delicate like bamboo. Resilient, flexible, and constantly growing.